Trevor Macular serving as an alternate for Dan Brady. Here. Dave Marquardt serving as an alternate for Mike Dever. Here. Armin Budish, I'm sorry, Mike Chambers.
I am heard.
Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lenore Lockett. Here. We have a quorum.
Okay, let's take a quick minute here to review the minutes from our 1/13/20 meeting. Let me know if you have any comments. Seeing none, then I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? Second. Seconded by Mr. Oh, sorry.
And we're going to have one abstention for Jim Boyle.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Boyle. With the extension, do we all in favor say aye? Aye. Okay, item approved with the extension. Okay, public comment?
No public comment at this time.
Okay, contracts and awards.
I'm going on to new items. Item number BC 2020-61 is a two-part item. Department of Public Works, A, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 47556, which will result in an award recommendation to the Safety Group LLC doing business as MTech Company in the amount not to exceed $456,130 for the purchase of one 2020 Gap Vax combination jet vacuum machine, and B, recommending the award in connection with said RP exemption.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. This first item, we're looking to purchase a new GetVax. It's one of our larger jet trucks for our sanitary division. It's going to be purchased through the State of Ohio purchasing contract. This will replace an older, it's an older unit that's seen a lot of repairs. That unit that'll replace either be auctioned off or traded in at that time.
Okay, are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll make a move to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
Next item, BC 2020-62, Department of Public Works submitting an amendment to a contract with Ask Reply Inc. doing business as B2G Now for support of diversity management and labor compliance software for use by the Department of Development and the Office of Procurement and Diversity for the period January 1st, 2015 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2024, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $276,129.55.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Department of Public Works. This item, we're looking to amend the contract with B2G, extending it 5 years, adding additional funds. This is the diversity management labor compliance software that multiple departments use, OPD, Department of Development, as well as Public Works. We're just looking to extend it additional 5 years.
Okay, are there any questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker.
Just curious, this ended last year. Is there any reason why we couldn't have had this contract last year?
We had multiple delays in receiving the actual contract. I know some areas of the law department got backlogged with the actual writing the contract amendment. And then there's the back and forth with the vendor. So it was started. I don't want to say it was started on time. It was started when it should have been, but there was a lot of delays with getting actual contract written. Once we got it back, we had to go back and forth with their law department to get it signed, and they required documents.
Okay. All right. In this particular case, there is no grant or no state.
So-
There's nothing to delay it except for our own internal.
Not that I'm aware of, but I do want to make a change with the funding while I'm here. The 750 license tax fund is correct, 102,000 for 2877. The community development block grant should only be 26,760.82 cents. The general fund will be 146,939.96 cents. So we worked with the Department of Development. Their piece is typically funded by a grant. So those grants, they don't know that they're awarded, nor do they know the funding for that until they're awarded that grant. So as this goes 5 years, those last 4 years, they don't know if they're awarded the grant piece. So we're going to put that in general fund for now.
I believe it's expected they will receive it, but
It is.
for now, though, we cannot comment.
But on paper,
commit.
we're going to put it as general fund. But just like this first year, the 26,760.82, that is out of their grant. In anticipation, the following 4 years will be as well, but they're not awarded that just yet.
Councilwoman Baker.
just for clarification then, the block grant now reads 148, 650.33, and you're changing it to 146?
No, the block grant will be $26,760.82.
Okay, that's the block grant.
And then the general fund will be $146,939.96. And that general fund includes development's 4 years as well as the fiscal office full 5-year amendment.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further questions, I move to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Moving on to the next item, item number BC 2020-63, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 47244 to the Safety Company LLC, doing business as MTech Company, in the amount not to exceed $197,295 for the purchase of one 2020 hydrostatic all-wheel drive tractor.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works again. This is the award recommendation to purchase a all-in-one purpose utility vehicle specifically for our Harvard maintenance garage. This was bid out through Bi-Speed and OPD. It went to 10 vendors. We had one response. I know there was a question ahead of time on the types, what this vehicle will be used for. It's a very compact vehicle. It'll be used for the lawn cutting, snow plowing, sweeping. It's very compact, so it's actually able to get inside the maintenance garage, which most of our vehicles can't do that function. So it's an all-in-one purpose vehicle, so.
Okay, any questions for Tom on this item? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
You got the next one.
Next item, item number BC 2020-64, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with Terrace Construction Company, Inc. for the Bradford Road Relief Sewer and Pump Station Elimination Project in the city of Brecksville for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $119,632.31.
Nicole English with Public Works. This is a construction amendment for a project that we are doing on behalf of the city of Brecksville. So this was increased plan quantities, mostly because of what happened in the field. Just when they get out there, they needed more. One of the other requests that was made by the city was wire reinforcement in all the concrete. And so that was an added cost. So this was at the city's request. It is paid for by the city's sewer district fees. So it's no county money.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Next item, item BC 2020-65, Department of Public Works, excuse me, recommending an award on requisition 47246 to Bob Gillingham Ford, Inc. in the amount not to exceed $78,239 for the purchase of two 2020 Ford all-wheel drive utility interceptors.
Good morning, Tom Pavich, Public Works. This is award recommendation to Bob Gillingham for the purchase of two utility vehicles for our sanitary division. They are replacements. The two that they're replacing, depending on their condition, once they're evaluated by our fleet division, will either be auctioned off or repurposed to the facilities division. This was a formal bid through OPD, went to 12 vendors. We had one response.
Okay, any questions? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you.
Item number BC 2020-66, Department of Information Technology, on behalf of the Office of Homeless Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Well Sky Corporation, formerly known as Bowman Systems LLC, for maintenance and support on Service Point software for the Homeless Management Information System, and is for the period January 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $13,167.50.
Janelle Green from the Department of IT on behalf of the Office of Homeless Services. This is a contract to bridge the gap between the transition from this system, this service point system, onto a new vendor. An RFP was posted in 2019 for the new system. So this will allow the transition of data into testing of data and getting everything configured as the system needs to be. The new system, the old system, excuse me, this will be the service point we're talking about today, is HUD data standard compliant. It currently has over 120 users, so we want to make sure that those users have a system in which they can continue to use until the other system is up and running. This contract does have a termination, a 30-day termination in the event that we don't need to go all the way until June. We are hoping to get it done sooner. April 30th would probably be the likely target date, but if not, we have some padding in the event that we need to extend that far while the system gets up and running for use.
Are there any questions for Janelle on this item? Trevor? Yeah.
Janelle, good morning. Did the county pick the new system yet? I mean, are we?
Yes, actually, that new system is in the process. It's currently in contract review. That new vendor is named Bit Focused. It was an RFP posted. There were 17 vendors that were on the plan holders list. 5 submitted proposals, and we weren't involved in that process. That was the Office of Homeless Services doing that. So they have 5 vendors that submitted proposals, and that vendor was selected. So again, it's currently in contract review. I believe it's in the OPD queue for review right now.
And will the end user notice a difference, or is it just what's going on behind? I mean,
well, the systems have to be HUD compliant, so they have to be the same fields and collect the same data. So in terms of probably the nuance, like the dashboard, when they go and look in, it'll probably be some difference, but the data collection should be the same points.
And is this the same software that's used for like to locate beds and available beds and resources that are available to place the homeless? Is that this software that?
I am not certain. I do have Ruth Gillette here that may be able to answer that question. So just 1 second while she makes it up to the podium.
Ruth Gillette, Office of Homeless Services. Good morning. So the question is this a resource tracking system? No. It is a data collection, outcomes management, demographics, that kind of thing.
Can you just talk about who uses this? Is it only county employees, or do we let the organizations that we contract with, who uses this software?
So county employees don't use the system. It is an outward, community-based, web-based product. Agencies that receive any federal housing and urban development funds through contracts are required to enter data into the HMIS system.
And then are we not allowed to use HUD funding for that? Since looks like we're using levy to fund the software?
To the chair. So initially, the short answer is now we are allowed to use HUD funding, and that going forward, my hope is that we will be able to use HUD funding. We included a grant proposal in the 2019 NOFA application that would permit funding to support the system plus additional staff. At the same time, the county has allocated about $26,000 annually of levy dollars to support the system. And if those funds could continue to be allocated, they have been approved within the budget, my budget. I would hope that we could continue to utilize those dollars.
Over the HUD dollars?
In addition to the HUD dollars, the new system will be more expensive than this system. It's a more robust system. We first entered into a contract with when it was Bowman in 2004. And so the cost of this system has really not increased over all that time. When in fact, in the real world, these systems have increased in cost.
And for the new system, Ruth, do you think that'll come to the board control in terms of dollar amount, or will that something that goes to council?
So to the chair, that particular contract, we have negotiated in order to get the best price for on an annual basis, a 5-year contract. And so the total amount will mean that it has to go before county council.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Is a two-part item. Item number BC 2020-67, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47436, which will result in an award recommendation to Case Western Reserve University, Center on Urban Poverty and Community Development, in the amount not to exceed $200,000 for implementation, management, and evaluation of Invest in Children programs, and it's for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
Good morning, Bob Stabe with the Office of Early Childhood. This is our regular ongoing evaluation contract with Case Western Reserve. It's in the same amount that we've had for the past 2 years. The exemption is based on the fact that the Center on Poverty and Community Development created and maintains the Childhood Integrated Longitudinal Data System, which was set up over 20 years ago to track our Invest in Children programs. And then over the years, they've added other data sets so that we can look at these downstream outcomes. This evaluation will be somewhat more narrowly focused on our universal pre-kindergarten program. Resources from this contract go to that ongoing maintenance and matching in the child data system. We're also going to be continuing our outcomes assessment, where we look at how well the children do on the kindergarten readiness assessment, and then subsequently in the 3rd grade reading assessment. Then we'll also be looking at the special needs classroom piece of it and the family engagement piece of it. There were some advanced questions. I don't know whether the responses got to the board in time. If there were any follow-up questions, okay. And then I'd be happy to entertain any follow-up questions.
Okay. Mr. Boyle, please.
I'm only recently becoming aware of the value of data. So the data that we provide to Case, does the contract preclude Case from disseminating, selling it to others?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, a couple points. Yes, it does, and it also requires them to handle that data in something called a FSMA compliant environment, which is a federal standard for a secure environment, because this is child level data.
Right.
So yes, we require both of those.
Are there any further questions?
One.
Councilwoman Baker.
So thank you for your explanation. It was helpful. I see here that the UPK is only reaching about 20% of our kindergartners.
Correct.
So is Case only then evaluating, given it's not anymore? It looks like looking at the total Invest in Children programs, is it only looking at the 20% of children?
Right now, this contract is pretty narrowly focused on UPK. Okay. So what we're able to do is we're able to look, to the extent that we can find those kids in the data, we're able to look at that 20%, and then we're able to make comparisons to other kids who are also in the data for whom who did not receive the UPK. So that's how we came up with this finding on the 3rd grade reading challenge. This time around, we're going to try to look maybe and see for some of the children who receive some of our other services, like the home visiting services, how well, if they wind up in UPK, how well they do in UPK, and then downstream. We haven't taken a look at that before, but we've asked Case to look at that for us.
The Invest in Children programs, that's still continuing?
The 20% really applies just to
UPK.
preschool age children.
Do we have a Case looking at the other children programs that we invest in, or?
Not under this contract.
Under this, do they have, I guess it's unfair to ask you, but is there other research that they also oversee? I mean, are we all focused on UPK right now, or?
Pretty much, yeah. It's a function of where the money's coming from. I'm sorry, Shauna, you want to come up and help me? This is Shauna Rorman, who's our evaluation manager.
Hi, Shauna Rorman. They have contracts with some of our other programs directly to do evaluation. So they have a contract with Moms First, which is a home visiting program. They have a contract with Spark, which is an early literacy home visiting program, to do evaluations for them. But as the internal evaluator, I'm also able to do some evaluation work. Whatever doesn't entail the use of the integrated data system, we're able to do internally through data sharing agreements with those programs directly. So there is evaluation of non-UPK programs happening. It's just not covered under this contract.
So you're comfortable that even though it used to be covered under this contract, I believe for $958,000 at one time, that diminishing $100,000 a year, which is still a lot of money, you're confident that the other programs are being watched and
Yes.
reported and? Okay.
We get performance numbers from them on a quarterly basis. So we're making sure they're living up to the targets in the contract to make sure the number of children served and the number of home visits served. So we get all of that data, and Shauna provides leadership on that. So then it's Case's job then to sort of look at, is the program having the impact that we desire?
Okay, well, that's good to know. And your statistic here of 20% of your kindergartners are actually exceeding those children not in UPK, but also in preschool. Is that a fair statement?
So there are obviously many technicalities that come along with that, right? Too many to probably outline here. We're not able to compare the children in UPK to children in other preschools while they're in preschools. And that's because not all preschools are using the same assessments. And we also just don't have access to data on those kids in non-UPK programs. But we can see them in kindergarten because they're all taking the same assessment. And so we're able to, through other data, through other administrative data that Case has, we're able to find children who weren't in UPK but attended preschool for the same amount of time, a high-quality preschool, and that's how we make our comparison.
All right, it's only that you have here, our evaluation did compare children who attended a UPK preschool to similar children who attended a high-quality but non-UPK site for similar period of time.
Correct, and when we do that, we're finding that UPK kids perform better on the kindergarten readiness assessment, and for the small number of children we're able to follow to third grade, they also outperform in third grade as well.
Okay, and you have all that documented?
We presented it to the Education, Environment, and Sustainability Committee earlier this year.
Okay, thank you very much.
Great. Any further questions? Okay. Well, then I'm going to make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye. Aye. We have one abstention. Opposed? Nay? No. Item's approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Item BC 2020-68, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council, submitting an amendment to a contract with Youth Opportunities Unlimited for community-based youth employment/internship program management services, and it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $165,000.
Good morning, Kathleen Johnson, Family and Children First Council. This is an amendment for our Youth Opportunities Unlimited contract for our youth internship program for this current year. We are going to serve 29 children for our new program with YOU. There was an RFP completed in 2018, so this is our second amendment for the contract. They are currently in 18 schools, and like I said, there are 29 active participants. There are 14 cluster choices for the youth to participate in. We just got the fourth quarter data from them. If anybody wants that information, I can provide that as well. And I think that's all. If you have, and we did answer the question I sent it this morning. No, I'm sorry, this is not the contract, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Item BC 2020-69, Department of Communications, recommending an award on requisition 46664 and to enter into a contract with Agility PR Solutions LLC in the amount not to exceed $29,160 for media monitoring services for the period January 13th, 2020 through January 12th, 2022.
Good morning, Miranda Corton with the Department of Communications. Agility PR Solutions is a media monitoring service that will track media coverage globally in print, online, on social media, and in blogs. It will identify opportunities for media coverage and measure news coverage in real time. It also provides some quantitative data, including but not limited to top publishers for the county, top influencers, media exposure, and media outreach. This will also generate the daily news clips that are sent out by the communications department, and it will also provide a global database of media contacts and social influencers. So that will be used to directly email them and help further establish relationships with the media, and also help us to further our efforts in pitching positive stories.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Mr. Boyle.
So they did an RFP on this. Is that an informal RFP?
Yes.
Do you know how many it went out to?
23 vendors.
And how many responded?
We received 4 proposals.
Okay. And a little bit about this company. Are they where are they based? What are they?
So they're based, I believe, they're headquartered in New Jersey. Okay. Yeah. So we have not worked with them before, but they are registered and everything. So. Do
we currently do this, or is somebody currently doing this work?
No, not currently. We had a contract with another vendor. It did end, and so that's when we did the RFP for this. So.
Okay, any further questions? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
Next item BC 2020-70, Court of Common Pleas, Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a contract with ComDoc, Inc. for maintenance and support on the DocuWare system, and it's for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $14,825.04.
Good morning, Sarah Baker, Juvenile Court. This is just a maintenance and support amendment for our DocuWare system, and this is the system that allows us to print PDFs out of our case management system, which is iCase.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? Oh, sorry. Go right ahead.
Previously, they were not required to be registered with the Inspector General because the annual amount was lower than the requirement. But now that it has increased, I do need to reach back out to them and see where they are with their registration.
Okay, so let me amend my comment here. I will make a motion to approve pending registration. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item BC 2020-71, Office of the Medical Examiner, submitting an agreement with the Cuyahoga County District Board of Health in the amount not to exceed $60,017 to provide data on the fatalities on substance use disorder, also known as SUD, and those related to opioid use disorder, OUD, and is for the period September 1st, 2019 through August 31st, 2020.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. So this is a federal grant. We are a sub-grantee through the Board of Health. As you have heard numerous times with federal grants, they are set to coincide with the federal fiscal year, which starts in October. but they are also notoriously late in getting us the award agreements. This one had to go to the Board of Health first since they were the recipient. We are a sub-recipient. We got their paperwork in December, which of course got bumped for the holidays, and that's why it's coming to you now. I believe there were some other questions that were submitted that I tried to get to this morning. So the description is a general description of what this grant is set to do. The data that we'll be using has already, we already have it. But there are other pieces of this grant that we are participating in with the Board of Health and other community partners in the opioid fight that we will be engaging in over the next 7 months. I also believe that this is a grant for 3 years. This is only the first year.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, I will move to approve. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Boyle. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thanks.
Thank you.
Moving on to exemptions, we have item BC 2020-72, Office of Procurement and Diversity, requesting authority to prepare an amendment that will be submitted for approval at a future board meeting for a contract with Brinks, Inc. for armed guard and armored truck services for various county departments, and it's for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2021, to expand the scope of services by adding one pickup location for Child Support Enforcement Agency, which is juvenile court located at 9300 Quincy Avenue in Cleveland. It's effective January 1st, 2019, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $18,158.82.
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. The purpose of this action is to correct an error that was in the existing contract. The contract was effective January of 2019. It replaced an existing armored guard, armored truck services contract. A RFP was done to select that vendor. The vendor at the time was also the vendor selected for the new contract. However, the new contract was missing one location. That was not discovered until Monday, and this is here to correct that error and also to forewarn you that the amendment, because it was just found out on Monday, will not be for a few months down the line. We'll work in haste to get it corrected.
So this was to give the board notice of what was going on, so appreciate that. So are there any questions on this item?
Before we have questions, I just want to recognize that Dale Miller is now here, so Jim Boyle, his alternate, is sitting in the audience now.
Where he belongs, yes. Okay. So I will make a motion to approve this item. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, item's approved. Thank you.
Item BC 2020-73, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council, recommending an alternative procurement process which will result in individual payments processed in the procurement system and issuance of department orders to various providers in the total amount not to exceed $50,000 to provide community assistance services to Cuyahoga County residents, and it's for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020.
Good morning, Kathleen Johnson, Family and Children First Council. This is our formerly known as a Family Stability Incentive Program, and we changed the scope of this last year to supplement our family-centered services and support dollars. What family-centered services and support dollars does is to provide services to families who are involved in our service coordination program. It helps to pay for home modifications, summer camps, respite services, and that program helps to prevent children coming into care, like either through Children Family Services, juvenile, and they're involved with Children Family Services, the Board of DD, Mental Health Services, Juvenile Court. It's through the wraparound program. What these dollars do, it's going to help bridge the gap because we don't usually get that funding until like November, sometimes even January sometimes, and it has to go through the Board of Control here. So this helps bridge the time for those services to start earlier in a year. So for an example, we might get a request like in March, but if we don't have the money until later on that year, well, March isn't really good time. So like say maybe the funding ends in June, but they want the services to start in August. So we'll use this money to help bridge that time for the services to start. Some of the agencies, like through the Board of DD, they might be able to fill that funding gap, but not all the other providers can, or the agencies can. So we use that money to fill that gap. And to answer the question that we got from the council, the cap would be $1,000. The other part of the request is to have the department orders not have to come through the Board of Control every time we submit the invoice because of the length of time it takes to get them approved. And I have to come down here, and not that I don't mind seeing you guys every week, but the length of time it takes to actually to pay the vendors is such a long time. We've actually had vendors really complain and not want to provide the services because and again, no fault to anybody involved in the process, but sometimes it might take like 3 months for them to actually get paid at one point. And they're, sometimes the respite providers are family members, and it just is such a lengthy process. I have to put it in by speed. I have to provide like maybe sometimes it's up to 8 documents. And then it has to go down to the accounts payable for them to actually get a check. And if it gets lost in the mail, then they have to get a reissuance. It's just such a lengthy process for them to get paid sometimes. So if we can cut back on any length of time for them to get paid, we would appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions on this item? Councilwoman Baker.
Does any of this money get replenished? I know it's gap funding, so if you take it out of a service that's not ready yet to pay, but should have been the entity to pay to keep this going, does it pay back so that there's a $50,000 always in there to cover the gap instead of, because this is actually on top of what these agencies already get?
So yes, that question did come up with the executive review. So yes and no. So if the Board of DD pays it, then we pay them back, but then not really. I mean, it's $50,000 coming out of the Health and Human Services levy, but this has been a line item budget in our budget, and I've been here almost 10 years. So we've always had this. We just use it in a different format through the community assistance, and that's where we were helping families would go through the community collabs and helping pay their rent, their utilities, depending on the circumstances. So in essence, not really, but we do. But we just got an email the other day. We were able to get camp started for a DD child, and the mom sent us a picture of the child at the camp, and they were just so grateful and so thankful for us being able to help their child get this service for them. So, and it prevents the children from coming into care. These are really deep in multi-need, multi-systemic kids who have really deep in needs that we're really helping in our community.
Yeah, there's no question that I understand the need. I just wondered if the appropriate agency pays back because of the gap time that they would have paid but didn't because it was not a...
So there is other funding out there, so this is funding on top of it. Some families with the Board of DD, they have funding available that they use as well, but these are dollars on top of dollars to help. So.
All right, thank you for
your
your explanation.
Welcome. Oh, you're
I
welcome.
understand the need. Thank you.
Councilman Miller.
This item is just an exemption. Is there another item that will come forward in the future that's a contract that implements this?
No, sir. We already had the Family-Centered Services and Support item approved earlier, back in November, I believe. And that was state funding, federal and state funding. So this is the only county dollars that is for this program.
So once this is approved, then these services could be provided without there having to be individual contracts. Is that correct?
Correct. What we do, I follow all of the requests or the requirements from the OPD department, vetting them through the department list through our county department list and the federal department list. And then we have them do the independent contractor form, the new form, I forgot I can't think of it off the top of my head right now,
No.
non-competitive bid form. So we vet them through, and that's part of the 8 forms that I submit with them that they have to approve. So there's no individual contract, no. They're just small companies and individuals.
We have a process for reporting things of less than $5,000 that don't have to come before the Board of Control, but they're listed from time to time on these minutes. Will it show up on that report?
I'm not sure.
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. So you're going to do individual DOs for each one of the activities that you sponsor.
Correct.
So those will show up on the list of DOs that are approved, but they won't come to the board for prior approval.
Right, okay, fine.
Okay, I just have a quick question.
Yes.
When it's over 50,000, you'll have to come back again to the board for another renewal, correct?
For next year, yes.
So you think 50 will hold you for the whole year?
Oh, for sure, yeah,
Okay.
because this is on top of the
Okay,
$437,000 that we get from the state.
I got you.
Yep.
Okay. Any further questions? Mr. Mackler? Yep.
This the $1,000 goes to the vendor directly, right? We don't give it to the person or the family. We
No.
pay invoice directly from the vendor.
Yes, yes. They might be a family member who's providing the respite services, but that would be the only connection to a parent at all. But there's never a parent being paid at all.
Okay, any further questions on that one? No. I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have a second? By Mr. Mackler. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, item approved. Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Next item, item BC 2020-74, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47509, which will result in an award recommendation to Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, doing business as Starting Point, in the amount not to exceed $3,967,988 for the Special Needs Child Care Program, and it's for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2021.
Good morning, Bob Stabe from the Office of Early Childhood. For both this item and the next item, we are seeking exemptions to enter into contracts with Starting Point for our regular ongoing programs with them. We always seek an exemption with Starting Point because they are designated by the state of Ohio as the regional resource and referral agency for Cuyahoga and 3 other adjacent counties. They're chosen for that role through a competitive RFP that's conducted by the state every 3 years. And in that role, they're funded by the state to maintain an ongoing relationship with every licensed provider in the 4-county area. Those providers submit data to Starting Point, which they then compile and upload to the state. They also provide training and technical assistance to those providers when there are changes in state law. So it's a natural partnership. We're looking to work. We're through these contracts, we're providing the resources to work with these same providers on other specialized ways. So it's a natural partnership.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions for Bob on this item? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thanks, Bob.
Next item, BC 2020-75, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 47507, which will result in an award recommendation to Child Care Resource Center of Cuyahoga County, again doing business at Starting Point, in the amount not to exceed $1,433,551 for management and administration of the Family Child Care Home, also known as FCCH, Professional Development System, and is for the period January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020.
I just have one more detail I forgot to mention. These actual contracts will be introduced to council at the meeting of the 28th.
Okay, thanks, Bob. Any additional comments on this particular item or questions? Seeing none, I'll move to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved.
Thank you very much.
We're moving on to consent agenda items, item numbers BC 2020-76 through 79.
I'd like to take a quick moment to review and let me know if you have any questions.
I also wanted to just make reference that there was a question for item number, and it should be BC 2020-77 instead of 2020-19, and it was in regards to the homeowner rehabilitation loans, but I don't see anybody here from the Department of Development to answer the question. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. The question was, how long are these loans?
This is.
If you could state your name, please.
Oh, sure, I'm sorry. Kate Fian with Department of Development. So this is a senior deferred loan, federally funded, so it will remain on the property until the title transfers.
And your name again?
Kate Fian.
Thank you.
Any questions of Kate's or any of the other? Go ahead, Trevor.
It's just as follow-up to that. So when the property transfers, the loan goes away
It has to be paid in full.
by the owner?
By the owner,
The current,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. What happens in the case of someone passing away or where?
So when the property sells, it's going to sell at some point, whether our borrower, passes away and it goes to their children will eventually sell it. So our loan remains on title until it's paid in full.
Is there scenarios where potentially they owe more on the house in terms of paying it off and not having enough to pay back the loan? What happens in that case?
Yes, so we have a process for that where we work with the law department and we get any of those approved, that if it's appropriate.
Are we first in line? I guess, is that what you're asking?
We're probably second, right?
After the mortgage? Sure, yeah.
Sometimes we're first, sometimes we're second. So
How is that determined?
if there's an existing first mortgage, then we would be in second position. But we look at the loan to value to make sure that, the county is in a decent position.
Hopefully the land would be worth something anyways, besides the building, if they took
Right.
all the equity out, but, okay. Sure.
This is in addition to other assessments, whether they had perhaps sewers or
Well, we,
sidewalks.
for these loans, we do an analysis of the title report. So we're looking at any liens that might be on the property. We make sure that property taxes are current and everything. So we do a thorough analysis of the case. Even though these are federally funded and deferred,
Right.
we still do a close look at these.
If there's an attachment though for, say, new sewers, and they opted to put it on their property, and so they owe that until the property sells,
Okay.
where are we in line with this?
I will have to get the answer to that question for you.
I would assume that the assessments would be part of their tax bill, so as long as they're paying their tax bill, they're gonna get paid, and this is when they eventually pass away or sell the house.
Right.
So the taxes will be due every year. Do you check to make
That
sure
would
they're
make-
current as
That
well?
would make
or-
sense to me.
yeah.
Not after the loans are approved. We do in some cases when because obviously we're servicing these loans in our community development portfolio. So of course, we get questions from borrowers and we may get a request for a short sale or anything like that. So then we are checking if the taxes are current. That's then the number one thing we check.
Okay. Sure. Okay, any other questions on any of the other items? Consent agenda today? Seeing none, I will move to approve. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, items approved. Any other business?
No other business at this time,
Okay, I will make,
and no public comment.
no public comment, thank you. I will make a motion then to adjourn. Do I have a second? Seconded by Councilman Miller. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item approved. Thank you. We're adjourned.